It's not every day that a single crash, followed by an even more bizarre second impact, manages to claim the life of just one person, especially someone as resilient and influential as Angie. To those looking from a distance, it might seem like an unfortunate accident that spiraled out of control late at night. But to the people who knew her, it's nearly impossible to shake the feeling that something more sinister took place. She openly feared a plot against her, hinted at dark forces within the music industry, and even spoke of a spiritual war on her life. The real question is, was all of this a chilling prophecy of her fate, or just a series of tragic coincidences that ended her story far too soon? Before diving into the night that changed everything, it's important to understand who Angie was beyond the rumors. She was more than just another name on a record label's roster. Angie was seen as a kind of creative lightning rod, someone who inspired other performers and had a reputation for speaking her mind. Long before her final days, she'd built a following that admired her honesty, her faith, and her determination to remain genuine. No matter how chaotic the entertainment world became, some say her talent alone wasn't the only reason people gravitated toward her. She had a spiritual core that intrigued those around her: artists, producers, executives, and the audience. It wasn't just about her voice on a track, it was the presence she carried when she walked into a room. For a time, that aura seemed to protect her from industry politics, but it may also have made her a target for powers beyond her control. Angie's early mentors admired her consistency and ability to push forward despite the rifts and power plays that occurred behind the scenes. Yet, even her formidable resilience might not have been enough to shield her forever. Angie's career blossomed under major record labels, but success in the music industry often comes with unspoken strings attached. Over time, a troubling pattern emerged. Angie wasn't receiving the compensation she believed she was owed. She'd pour her heart into songs, watch them climb the charts, then see almost nothing trickle back into her bank account. Initially, she chalked it up to normal industry headaches: complicated contracts, multiple producers, or unexpected fees. But the deeper she dug, the more convinced she became that she was the victim of systematic wrongdoing. In her final weeks, Angie found what she deemed tangible evidence of misallocated royalties and unpaid mechanicals, tracing them right back to Universal Music Group. The amount was staggering, well over $1 million if her claims were correct, enough to have fully altered the course of her financial life. With that kind of money, she wouldn't have needed to keep traveling for gigs. Instead, she was on the road at ungodly hours, pushing herself to keep earning an honest living. Compounding the pressure, Angie openly voiced her intentions to file a lawsuit against UMG. Friends said she spoke of it with a mix of frustration and dread. She worried that when legal action of that magnitude loomed, corporate giants might retaliate. She wasn't naive enough to think it would be an easy fight, but no one could have predicted the abrupt and traumatic end her life would meet so soon after she declared her intent to seek justice. Yet Angie herself confessed she had no idea to what lengths certain people might go to ensure she stayed silent. Fast forward to the night that would seal Angie's fate. She'd just finished a show and was traveling back in the early hours of the morning, around 4 a.m., when the roads are dark and empty. At first, it sounded like an unfortunate but relatively straightforward car accident. According to initial reports, her vehicle flipped multiple times. Angie, along with some of her crew, was trapped inside. Many believed that, against all odds, she was still alive and struggling to free herself. It was the follow-up collision that changed a tragic accident into something else entirely. Seemingly out of nowhere, a truck came barreling down the road and slammed into the flipped car, effectively finishing the job. This second strike made survival nearly impossible. The detail that sent chills through onlookers was that Angie's companions walked away with injuries, but survived while she did not. Suddenly, people were wondering, was this simply a nightmarish fluke? 2 collisions in a row that targeted the same vehicle, ensuring the one person who threatened the status quo was gone for good? As the days wore on, the rumor mill churned out every possible explanation. Some insisted it was mechanical failure, an unlucky convergence of bad weather or poor visibility. Others whispered that someone had orchestrated the truck's presence. The grisly coincidence of Angie's lawsuit, her outspoken nature, and her repeated warnings about being harmed led many to suspect foul play. To this day, the documentation of that second collision remains a focal point in the swirling theories around her demise. In the aftermath of Angie's passing, a close friend and fellow artist, ller, lit the fires of conspiracy even higher. He posted what was meant to be a heartfelt tribute to Angie, but included direct screenshots of private text messages she had sent him. The tone of those messages was urgent and raw, covering topics no one imagined would end up on a public Instagram feed. Angie talked about her ill health, her fight for a transplant, and a deeper sense that she was in a war with powerful entities. She also named names, including Diddy, hinting at how his alleged misdeeds were finally coming to light. One of the most poignant aspects of those messages was Angie's comment about Kim Porter, Diddy's late partner, supposedly working from beyond the grave to bring about the exposure of his wrongdoing. While some found comfort in the idea of spiritual justice, many were stunned that Albie sure would release such intimate exchanges. Supporters argued that Angie would have wanted the truth out there, while critics scolded him for unveiling her private concerns at a time when her family was already reeling from the loss. Beyond the moral quandary of publicizing those texts, their content raised even more suspicion. Angie wrote that she'd felt compelled to stand behind Albie's shore because she knew the kind of chaos and alleged threats he was facing. She also referenced the alleged betrayal of a certain industry figure who had once sought her prayers. In short, the text read like a blueprint for everything that could go wrong in show business if you step on the wrong toes, and left many people feeling that Angie's accident may not have been an accident at all. One of the most troubling threads in this tapestry of theories is Angie's recurring talk of being under a spiritual attack. She believed that dark forces, tangible or otherwise, had zeroed in on her, and she wasn't alone. In a series of interviews shortly before her passing, Angie divulged that she had been hospitalized for a severe blood infection. The doctors managed to treat it, but Angie couldn't shake the conviction that this ailment was no mere coincidence. She implied that someone, or something, intended to undermine her strength at a crucial moment. This narrative of malevolent energies targeting Angie wasn't new. She had apparently battled cynics, naysayers, and, some would argue, literal curses from early on in her career. While many might find such talk too mystical, Angie's core circle took her words seriously, given the repeated hardships she faced in quick succession. The moment she recovered from that infection, she found herself dealing with the lawsuit, the stress of losing money, and a swirl of tension with high-powered figures she feared might retaliate. For devout supporters of Angie, the lines between physical world conflict and spiritual warfare blurred. They pointed to the hush-hush nature of the record industry, which thrives on secrecy and power plays. To them, Angie's claims about being spiritually targeted were an unfiltered glimpse into how high the stakes might truly be. Whether you believe in curses or not, the combination of near-fatal illness, lawsuits, and her eventual car accident raises the possibility that some brand of sabotage was in the mix. Among the more dramatic stories Angie shared was one involving Sean "Diddy" Combs, a titan of the music business with a long list of controversies trailing him. According to Angie's testimony, Diddy approached her at a studio one day, at a time when they didn't typically converse, and asked her to pray for him. This was right around the scandal involving Shine and Jennifer Lopez, when Diddy was alleged to be fearing for his life or his freedom. Angie viewed his request for prayer as a desperate plea from a man who felt cornered and terrified. That moment was uncharacteristic for Diddy, at least in Angie's eyes, because he'd barely acknowledged her before. The fact that he suddenly recognized her as a potential spiritual lifeline struck Angie as both remarkable and ominous. She later remarked that at that time, she believed her faith was the only reason he decided to open up to her. The underlying implication is that Angie was privy to more of Diddy's personal struggles and possible indiscretions than she ever let on publicly. After all, if someone of his caliber was reaching out to her behind closed doors, what secrets might she have discovered? Over time, Angie's narrative suggested Diddy went back to his old ways, ignoring or overshadowing the moral or spiritual lessons he might have gleaned from that desperate moment. For observers who already suspected underhanded dealings in the industry, this story added more suspicion around Angie's death. Could knowledge of what Diddy once confided in her, however brief, have placed her in a precarious position? While there's no direct evidence linking him to her accident, the story fans the flames of conspiracy and underscores how deeply Angie was connected to high-profile figures. Beyond label conflicts and personal vendettas, there's another angle to Angie's story that has fueled endless debate: her connection to a rumored occultic sorority known as Zeta by Beta. For a long time, Angie never publicly acknowledged any involvement. Fans learned of her association through a post made by this group right after her passing, implying that she had been a member or had some sort of bond with them. Speculation runs in multiple directions here. Some say Angie sought out spiritual or esoteric protection, hoping to shield herself from the negative energies and potential violence of the industry. Others interpret her link to this group as part of a broader network of hidden alliances that might have made her even more of a target. It's a murky web of theories. Perhaps she joined for sisterhood, or maybe it was a strategic move. In either case, membership in such organizations can come with strict rules and hidden obligations, complicating the narrative of her abrupt end. Critics caution that jumping to occult conclusions can trivialize real-world corruption and exploitation. Yet, for those who believe powerful networks often operate in the music scene, Angie's alleged in an esoteric group only adds to the sense that her demise was no mere road accident. Maybe her attempt to stand up for herself financially and her deep knowledge of multiple players in the business made her into a liability. When looking back on Angie's life and untimely death, the details form up so perplexing that it can't be dismissed as an ordinary tragedy. She discovered $1 million in her finances, publicly threatened to sue a major label, and openly admitted she didn't know what extremes people might do in order to dodge those payments. She survived a near-fatal blood infection that she believed was brought on by spiritual warfare. Then, in a single night, she was involved in not but 2 collisions, the second so strangely timed that many call it deliberate. Her friends with injuries, she did not. In the flurry of grief that followed, Al B. Sure publicly aired Angie's private texts about some of the most powerful figures in entertainment, fueling suspicions that her demise might have been orchestrated. She had gone on record about people with massive influence and questionable motives. She described a frightened Diddy running to her for prayer, only for him to resume his old ways soon after. She had also hinted at deeper knowledge of secrets that she was unwilling to keep hidden. Was it all just the random, heartbreaking collision of unfortunate events? Or was Angie silenced her time, swept off the board to protect high-level interests? The truth may never surface in the form of an official statement, but fans, friends, and casual observers alike will keep dissecting the clues. Angie's story stands as a reminder of how precarious life in the limelight can be, especially when you're brave enough to challenge the powers that be. In the end, the music world is left with more questions than answers. Did Angie's outspoken nature and financial dispute make her a threat? Was the bizarre crash a horrifying but natural occurrence? And who gains the most or permanent silence? One thing is for sure, Angie's name still resonates whenever people discuss the murky underbelly of the entertainment industry. If nothing else, her legacy may encourage future artists to keep a keen eye on their rights and remind us all that some secrets might be too big, too dangerous, and too tightly guarded for any single person to bring into the light. And that's where her story leaves us, haunted by the echo of her final warning, wondering how many more cautionary tales just like it are waiting to be told.